Welcome to Borderline Furniture. I'm Mara, and this is Project 55, where two thrifted misfits go from Muggle to magical. I spotted these two pieces sitting side by side outside my local thrift store, soaked from last night's rain, marked 25% off, and practically begging to be rescued. I snagged both for under $20. My vision? Salvage the legs from the coffee table and use them to build a new base for the cabinet. But first, I need to break things down and make sure that those legs are actually usable. They're perfect. Looks like these two misfits were destined to be together. Before anything else, it's deep clean time. I'm using hot water and Dawn dish soap. The cabinet itself was surprisingly clean, but the doors, not so much. Since the cabinet had no base, it sat directly in the rainwater. The particle board is already showing signs of damage. The doors weren't attached when I bought it, and now I know why. The screw holes were stripped, and the particle board just isn't strong enough to hold those heavy doors. Time to take it apart and rebuild. Fun fact, this cabinet was made in Yugoslavia. How often do you see that? I removed the sides with the help of my BFF, who held the shelf supports while I worked. Without that support, it could have collapsed and cracked the particle board. Here's a close-up of the water damage. Yeah, we're not working with that. New plan. I'm building two frames using select pine to mount the doors. I'm also using a dowel jig to center the holes and dry fit everything before gluing. I'm using dowels to join the frame pieces. This method creates a strong, seamless bond without visible screws. When aligned properly, dowels add incredible strength and stability, making the frame feel like one solid piece. To get the hole placement just right, I used the original cabinet side as a template and drilled straight through. Risky? Maybe. Brilliant? You'll just have to watch and see. Once the holes were drilled, I trimmed all four sides of the original panel to fit the new frame. Then I used a Craig jig to add pocket holes and secured the center section with glue and screws. Since this is the cabinet's interior wall, I plugged the hole with Craig wood plugs and sanded them flush once the glue was dry. With one side done, it's time to tackle the second side. Back wall isn't just a one-day project. It's going to take several days. The first step, primer. Then comes the magic. I'm using joint compound with a brick stencil to create a faux brick wall. Here's the catch. Each section takes 5 to 6 hours to dry before I can move on. And those dry bits in the compound? Well, they added an unexpected dimension that made the bricks look way more authentic than a flat trowel ever could. I couldn't assemble this cabinet without the help of my BFF. Teamwork makes the dream work. The cabinet was squared up, it was time for primer. Both the cabinet and the faux brick got a fresh coat, setting the stage for color. I scored the perfect bare oops paint, a flat exterior shade that's going inside the cabinet and across the back wall. Once dry, everything got sealed with matte polyacrylic. But the wall still needed definition. Enter black wax. I brushed it across the bricks and then wiped it back, and suddenly the texture popped like the real deal. And finally, this cabinet looks like it's coming together. Okay, so here's where things get a little scrappy. I repurposed the top of the coffee table for the cabinet base. Cutting it down wasn't smooth sailing. Honestly, I had the wrong type of blade in my skill saw, and then there were those tricky angles that I had to cut off using my table saw. But in the end, persistence paid off. The salvage pieces were cut at a 45-degree angle with the miter saw. I'm not a trim carpenter, but hey, incremental cuts saved the day. When I'm working with angles like this, it's better to have too much than too little because you can always cut it off. It's much harder to put it back on. The legs were too long and had cutouts, so I trimmed them above the shelf notch. Then I pre-drilled and secured them with lag bolts. Honestly, this idea worked better than expected. My paint sprayer can be a little finicky, but eventually I got it working. The cabinet exterior got sprayed with my favorite bare chalk paint color, black. The doors followed suit, and yes, I'm a huge fan of bare chalk paint. And once dry, I used bare polyacrylic to seal everything. Oh, little hinges, I have been burned by you before. I always mark my hinges so they can go back to the same place they came off. At this point, my level of anxiety was pretty high. It was the moment of truth, installing the doors. Even though I measured and double-checked everything, one door sat higher than the other. Panic? Well, almost. With a quick adjustment to the level of the cabinet feet, the doors evened out. Pro tip, uneven floors can mess with cabinet doors. Hey, that rhymes. This is a stencil trick worth remembering. It's called the half-hinge stencil method. Center your stencil and then tape both ends. Peel about halfway back and then cut the backing. Hinge it back carefully and then gradually apply it with a felt edge tool. This works for stencil material and vinyl. For the gold lettering, I used distressed ink. Those inks dry pretty slow, but the edges stay sharp, unlike chalk paint, which tends to bleed. The sides of the cabinet felt a little too plain, so I added decorative stencils with gold ink. I used Reflections ink, but it didn't perform as well as the distressed ink, and as you'll see in a minute, distressed inks nailed it. Oh, I almost used these small black knobs, but then I remembered these ornate holes I had from a past project. Perfect match for the theme. One extra hole drilled, hardware jig, making it easy. With the glass shelves in, it was finally the moment we've been waiting for. Peeling back the stencil to reveal the clean golden letters of Ollivanders. Man, this is pure magic. Just a reminder of where we started And here is the completed cabinet. I hope you've enjoyed this magical transformation. If you're enjoying my content, please like and subscribe. Your comments are always welcome, and as always, thanks for watching.